Hello, everybody, and it's time, folks. It's time for that thing you guys love every year. Get your popcorn ready. This is where I'm at my most obnoxious and most wrong, probably. Um, doing the quarterback rankings. I kept it in the middle for good reason to get me in the flow of things and really just gonna push us out for you guys. Let's hope this won't be an hour, but it probably will. So sit back, relax, do whatever you guys do to help you guys through a yap session. Another terrible class. Everyone sucks. So, might as well just really do it how I feel. Yeah, don't draft any of these guys except for Fernando, maybe. Um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. So we're gonna do, as always, honorable mentions, which was a hard one this year, just because it's like, who do we really put in here? Just by default, and so many guys. It was supposed to be a great class this year, but Arch wasn't ready, so he, uh, stayed in college. Lenore Sellers didn't develop as much as he wanted. Dante Moore stayed. I don't know why. I mean, he would have been my QB1 this year if Dante just came out. Who else? Sam Levitt, I guess, could have came out. So not as deep as people thought. And then, just the guys who had to leave didn't have great years that you'd want. But anyway, 15, we got Jalen Daniels out of Kansas. He was there for like 6 years, I think. He's a cool college quarterback, but he just screams UFL to me. Mobile enough, tough enough, average arm. Just reads defenses. He just doesn't have NFL traits. Same thing with Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. I had to put him on here. Just that's how scarce this QB class is once we get out of the top 10. He was fun at New Mexico State, fun that first year of Vanderbilt, and then, he opened his mouth, and it's like, you're kind of like one of these cornballs, try to be too cool, and, like, you're already, like, significantly older than everyone else in college anyway, and, and you guys know me, I like shit talkers and cocky guys, but when it's natural, it feels like he's kind of playing a character. But yeah, can move around a little bit, good thrower on the run, but he just doesn't have the size, the athleticism, the profile, the processing to be an NFL quarterback. But, he might get a practice squad invite, if not play UFL Canada, maybe switch positions, who knows. Kyron Drones out of Virginia Tech, good traitsy athlete, but just so raw, so underdeveloped. Not that accurate of a passer. I said put it here just cuz. Fuck it, who cares? Baron Morton out of Texas Tech. He's like Chris Sims QB3 or whatever the fuck. So having him here is a luxury, a steal. He's a smart quarterback, fairly accurate. I think he can be a potential good backup quarterback, or at least a guy like a Chase Daniel, stay in the league for a long time, but I liked him in college, but just no elite traits, and he just never stepped up in the biggest of moments, unfortunately. So, he has a limited ceiling, and it's just fairly average everywhere else. And my 11, Miller Moss out of Louisville, I liked him a lot. I got, for a guy to be my 11th QB1, or QB 11th out of Louisville, I thought he was fairly good at USC. Don't know why he got benched. I guess Lincoln Riley liked Jaden better, and he could have turnover problems. I guess isn't consistently accurate, but I think he has a NFL arm at least. Isn't the most athletic. Good enough processor. So potential priority free agent, get a backup QB3 in there, develop him to be a backup for you. Fuck it, who cares? Number 10, Luke Altmaier out of Illinois. Another guy who will probably be a backup at best and may or may not be drafted. I always usually give people right. Like, I've never had someone projected as undrafted in my top 10s. So 6th to 7th, good enough agility, all right at play extension, throwing on the run, can make some plays, some sidearm throws, cute stuff. Has an okay arm. I think it's good enough, but just isn't consistent. Decision making or accuracy. Can throw some very sus passes. Good like play action quarterback. I thought of like Clayton Tune. Very poor man's Ryan Tannehill. So he's kind of in that family because my comp Desmond Ritter and Tune, I both comped him to Ryan Tannehill, and neither one of them at all had the type of career that Tannehill had, and I don't think Altmaier will, but here's to hoping that he might, carve out a good backup role. He probably won't get drafted. No one's really talking about him at all, but I think he's athletic enough and has a good enough arm to be at least 10 and over the other guy, This class is it's interesting to say the least. As number 9, Cole Payton out of North Dakota State. Again, people love him. He's Todd McShay's quarterback 3, I think. Or he's in a lot of people's top 5. I've noticed. I don't quite see it. Only started this year. Good mobility, good toughness. He's a runner, scrambler type of guy. He just doesn't. He's just not polished. He doesn't have the accuracy or really the arm strength. I didn't see much. He can throw a nice go ball to Bryce Lance on occasion, but doesn't have the best zip, I wouldn't say. So, that might be a problem passing in NFL windows. I just don't know if he has that in him. And just, reading a defense, coming up from that competition and that, North Dakota State's a powerhouse, so it can be a simple offense. But with his pros, fun comp, let's just say Tim Tebow, tough physical guy. You might also see Taysom Hill comps, so he could potentially, maybe move to tight end or running back or, something else if this doesn't go out well, being a developmental quarterback. But, he's going to be the traitsy, toolsy guy who doesn't have much experience at all. Led him to the playoffs, but then, North Dakota State will always go to the playoffs. At least in the FCS, they thankfully finally went up to FBS in the Mountain West now, but I'm just not there. He's just not. Like, I like him. I love North Dakota State players. I hope they all succeed, but I just don't see it. I don't see a path. Unless, like, Sean McVay or Kevin O'Connell or, Shanahan picks them up and develops them. And, they're really sold on them. I don't see it. I don't see the upside, unfortunately. Another guy who is getting that type of buzz is Talon Green out of Arkansas. Another 5th to 7th. Great athleticism. I liked him a lot since Boise. I thought he was a fun college quarterback. Can play make. He has a good enough arm strength. Can throw the deep ball well. Yeah, just all-around playmaker at his best. He can, scramble around and get yards for you. But, again, the accuracy is just not there really at all. Not at all consistent-wise with you and just reading defenses on a consistent level. We don't know, so I thought of a tall, athletic guy, good enough arm, wasn't good at processing or accuracy, consistent level. I thought my boy Terrell Pryor out of and we all know that he transitioned to receiver, which, after the combine, he had a lot of great testing. People thought that might be something Green could do, and hell, I think as well. I don't think it's an insult. You guys know me. I always represent my black quarterbacks, but We're not Bill Polian over here. Back in 2000, just any black quarterback had to be a wide receiver. But I truly believe that he could potentially, be better at receiver than quarterback in the NFL. Unless he gets developed up, as we're slowly learning, I think, as a society, more and more every year that situation matters in QBs. I mean, Sam Darnold just won the fucking Super Bowl 3 years ago. Would anyone think that that's possible, humanly possible? No. So, fun player, fun, toolsy guy. You guys know I'm tradesy, especially with these quarterbacks, but I just need the consistency and like the elite level. Like, I can see you like make every throw consistently. You have good enough production to where your team wins, you're leading them. You can blame Arkansas and the coaching staff. I don't quite see it. It'll be interesting, though, to see where he goes. Number 7, my boy Sawyer Robertson out of Baylor. 6th and 7th round guy. He could be undrafted. I don't know. Really good arm strength, good arm talent. Well, except accuracy-wise, you guys know what I view arm talent as. It's an overall, like, can you make every throw? Good enough runner, but again, he's just inconsistent with his accuracy. He can throw some turnover-worthy throws and, just advantageous spots. Isn't consistent down to down. So I thought of a Blaine Garrett comp. Pretty proud of myself, if I say so. So in 2009, he would have been a first-round pick for sure with his traits and good enough size. But just now where we're at, we need consistency every year. And I don't know. I had him at 6 ahead of my number 6, but it's just certain traits that this guy has, I guess, that's going to be more translatable to the NFL, or just because of his namesake, he's going to have more opportunities than Sawyer. So I like him. I think he can be a good project guy that you get in the 6th, 7th round, undrafted guy. Maybe might do something. I just like his potential more than the 2 other guys. I do think he's in that, like, flyer, Joe Milton, last round. Ideally, you'd want to draft him in the last couple rounds. Flyer quarterback. As we got number 6, we got the old Nuss bus out of LSU. Garrett Nussmeier. He might be the most, him and another guy, polarizing as opposed to where you have him ranked. I probably have him lower than most. I haven't seen him. I had him at 7 again for a while until like last week. I kept watching more film of Sawyer. It was like, I guess Garrett's, I don't know. I don't know. But 4th to 6th round pick, just because his dad is the Saints OC, I think he's going to get better opportunities and better shots. He's fairly good at anticipatory throws. He's pretty smart. Can read progressions, can go through them fairly well. He can be good in the pocket, maneuvering. He has a low sack rate, but he's not going to outrun anybody when he's really being pursued and an edge rusher has a hand on him. I don't like his arm strength personally. It's his arm, like early, like even when he was the backup at Jaden Daniels, like the LSU fans were really like hyping up his arm, and I just never saw it. He can occasionally have some good zip in between, middle of the field throws, but I just don't see the consistent level, and the accuracy downfield can be more than desired, and he can be late on out routes. I think you guys remember that Texas A&M game 2024, and I probably watched more 2024 tape on him than 2025 because I will give him the excuse that he was injured this year, and Brian Kelly, that whole situation, they didn't handle it well at all. I don't know what the fuck was going on, and It's not like Van Buren was any better than him when they benched him. I just think they sat him because he was hurt, because he shouldn't have been playing probably. Um, but even last year, I wasn't a fan of him. I've never been big on him, so that's why, like, especially he was never going to rise up boards for me this year, but he was never in the first round projections for me as he was with everyone else. Never saw it, and he didn't show anything this year to improve that at all to me. um, Andy Dalton is a good comp for me that I think. I think he can niche out a role if he stays healthy. Quarterbacks are, coach's son, smart. If he, keeps his head down and, hustles and grinds out tape, he can, have a good long backup career. He's just not a guy that I want to be my starter for any long amount of periods. I don't see it. And he's, size freaks. I'm not really that big of a size freak guy, but he's, a little shorter than you want, skinnier than you want. I don't know. And now he has some potential injury problems. I don't know if he could even stay healthy for 16 games. So I don't know, man. You guys don't hate him. I hope he proves me wrong. It could be another Tyler Shugg situation, but Tyler was way more talented than him, armor wise. But yeah, I got him at 6 just because of the, just the little things. Just can potentially just check down, doesn't force it. But some of those picks are bad when they happen. Number 5, we got my boy Kaleb out of Clemson, another guy. He should have been a first-round pick this year, just didn't. He, more than anyone in the past, 3 years of guys I like, I look at the high school rankings, the top, 5-star quarterbacks. I try to follow them. I hope that they can, develop into these elite, talented guys so we can watch them on Sundays and have fun. And I knew about him since all the way with, Quinn Ewers, because at the time Quinn was committed to Ohio State, and they had a little rivalry in high school down in Texas where Cade would beat him in the state championship games. So I was always aware of Cade. I watched him. In theory, I would like his talents. He just didn't really develop enough to where I'd want, and a lot of people would want. So 4th to 6th, depending on just if a team really is falling in love with him. I think he is a good playmaker. He can good throw on the run, good agility, can scramble pretty effectively. You think of that Pitt game last year. Again, 2024 is a really good year. 2025, like I said, with a lot of the Clemson guys, they just regressed. Is the word production-wise. I think they're still the same players. It's just they didn't play as well for whatever reason this year. Overall accuracy, consistency is a problem. I want to see how well he can process a defense in the NFL. And then pocket presence, a lot can be left desired, whether just, leaving the pocket too early or, getting skittish and scared, paranoid. Don't see it, but from a talent level, a skill set level, they have similar skills. Bo Nix is my comp, and you guys know me, I'm not the biggest Bo Nix guy, but I can admit that Bo has played well above what I ever thought he could in the NFL. I still think that this is kind of his ceiling. That last year's AFC Championship game, I think that's just the best we'll ever see of him. That is probably a, top 12 quarterback. If that Bo Nix played every game that way, top 12-ish QB in the league, I'm still a little hesitant on Bo ever being a top 10 guy or a guy that can win a Super Bowl, maybe on a stacked team. If Bo was on this year's Seahawks or last year's Eagles, maybe. I don't think he'd fuck it up enough, so. I still think Cade has high talent and could potentially be a starter, but it's not looking that way. he's going to have to really earn it, and someone's going to have to get injured, and he's really going to have to make that leap that, like, the Brock Purdy's of the world did when they entered the NFL. So we'll see. We'll see. Number 4, I got my boy Carson Beck out of the U. I guess he's also polarizing. 4th to 6th round pick. Another guy who has had either better years or just hasn't gradually improved year to year. He's kind of been the same steady guy. So that's why people don't like him. And, just the breaking, game-ending, dramatically terrible interceptions that I have no excuse for. I can't tell you guys what he even is looking at. Like the championship game against Indiana, I don't know why the fuck he threw that pass. I rewatched it 7 times trying to see what he could have saw. I don't know how he didn't see the safety. Or the trailing corner, whichever one it was. God bless him. I do think at his best he can be a very solid starting game manager for you. You think about, the highest of highs of this year at Miami, against Notre Dame, Florida State, against my Buckeyes, he didn't fuck it up. He did what he had to do for them to win the game on offense. Just do enough, be smart, don't put it in harm's way. I think he is good at processing. I think he does have good accuracy on all stages, primarily, dump offs in the middle of the field. I think he's a good thrower there. It's just the decision making. I don't think he has bad accuracy at all, but well, not at all, but passes can sail on him, and ever since the injury, the deep ball accuracy, it can be iffy. But I really think it's just the decision making or maybe the defense. It's too quick for him, and you think he can just fit a throw in there when he shouldn't have. He thinks he has the arm talent to just squeeze it in there. He just needs to clean it up. In athleticism, he's not overly athletic. I mean, he had a good run against Ole Miss, that game winner. He can run for a first down every once in a while. He's not a statue, but no one that's going to burn anyone. So that's why I got him as a Mac Jones comp, a guy who at his best can be a good starter, one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league. I think Mac still is, but should be a game manager. Don't overdo it, because when they do overdo it, Mac has dumb, mind-boggling interceptions as well. But I think they're both tougher than they give credit for, especially Mac this year. That Rams game on Thursday night, very good game, fun stuff. And Mac, in a perfect system with Shanahan as a backup, looks well. He looked good as a rookie with Josh McDaniels as his OC. I love my boy Patricia now, with the, shout out JT Barrett, but should never be coaching offense in the NFL. Should not have been calling plays. So I think Carson Beck has that ceiling of a top 25, top 20 quarterback in the league. If not, a good enough backup who could potentially, stay in the league for, 4 or 5 years, maybe, at worst he'll bounce around for a couple of years and, do realtor or what, some insurance shit. But I don't know. I like him more than most people, which might be a shock to you guys, because of my prototypical quarterbacks that I like is no none other than my number 3. I can't even do this with a straight face. This is the propaganda. This is where the narratives will be narrating. So this is what you guys have been wanting. Okay, I got Drew Aller at Penn State, guys. I don't care. 3rd or 5th round pick. I mean, at this point, that's a steal. Guys, I'm telling you right now, he has the best arm in this class. He does. Am I supposed to lie? Am I supposed to just make shit up to you guys just because he didn't win the Heisman and win a national championship for you? Am I supposed to ignore the arm talent because his dumbass OC kept doing trick plays his whole career? That's not his fault, all right? That his receivers couldn't get separation. His best receivers, fucking Tyler Warren and Nicholas Singleton, and they're not wide receivers. All right. Good toughness, doesn't get the respect he deserves. Stays in there in the pocket, can make throws. Wheeling dealing, man. He's not the most athletic, but he can run, scramble, get some yards. Puts his head down, doesn't really slide. Like he'll try to get more yards. Good contact balance for a quarterback. But for the arm talent guy that he is, he's just not the best out of structure. Like, he's not that good throwing on the run as you'd want, or at least I would want. He's more of a stay in the pocket guy. Just his overall mechanics can improve. I heard something where he has like the longest wingspan in NFL quarterback history or something. Like once he gets drafted, so he has a slower wind up, and his feet work can get choppy. I think that's what messes up with his accuracy consistencies, especially just the little short dink-a-dunks, that he can airmail or, just like hit the feet. You question what the hell, like how did he miss that easy throw? And, just like Carson, unfortunately, he has the like all-time like dramatic fucked up game losing interceptions thing. Oregon last year, and he was balling. He has played his best, I feel, against Oregon, both last year and the Big Ten Championship game. He really plays well against them, and then obviously the Notre Dame game was just so pathetic. You almost feel bad for him. Just how big of a moment and fuck up that was, but. And the whole thing about he doesn't play his best against the best competition. I said besides Oregon, I just don't think he had the help that you'd want. He just didn't have any good enough receivers. Harrison Wallace left and had a good season with Ole Miss this year, but it wasn't like anything spectacular, I don't think. And like, where was that in Big Ten? Those Big Ten corners, I tell you, there's a difference. But yeah, man, I still think he's improved a little bit every year. His accuracy gets better. I think he can get coached up. There's some mental aspects to him, I think, too. If he can just have more edge, have more dog into him, I really think he can be a starter in this league, and a good one at that. My comp, less athletic, smarter Will Levis, just for shits and giggles. Really, it should just be like Carson Wentz. A little slower. Isn't as fast as either one of them, but has the big arm, can make any throw. Tall, tough guy, accuracy, consistency issues. He's in that family. There's like the Malik Willis, Anthony Richardson, Jalen Miro family for the black quarterbacks, and then the white ones, you got the Will Levis, Drew Aller, Carson Wentz now. Like, I divide them up. That's how, like the in theory Josh Allen guys, you got the black side of Josh Allen and the white side. But, yeah, that's what Drew is. I like him a lot, obviously. He's probably my favorite quarterback, for real. I'm being unbiased here and putting him at 3. I've seen some people even have him higher at 2, so I guess I'm not the highest on him. And then there's some people so disrespectful. It's like Quinn Ewers last year, having him at like quarterback 9 and 11 and shit. Like I guess I see why at face value why you wouldn't like Drew Aller. He was a 5-star guy, and he didn't like win enough for you guys, and didn't have the enough production and winning awards. But he's won a lot of games. Doesn't throw many picks at all. It's just the ones that he does is just so like heartbreaking. It's amplified times 20 as opposed to like a pick in the first quarter. But he has the lowest touchdown to interception ratio in this class, I believe, when healthy. So hopefully also that injury is lingering. So he's the guy that I'm banking on a talent, because I've seen him actually produce and at higher levels than Sawyer and Cole Payton and Taylor Green. Like I just can't believe some people that have those guys ahead of him. But My 2-1 are the unfortunate consensus because of unfortunately Drew didn't make the leap this year and Carson or Cade didn't, but Ty Simpson did make the leap. A guy who I've been on the radar for. I even think he could have potentially been the starter over Milrow that 1 year, 2023, I believe, because I did think, and I mean he obviously is the better passer, thrower of the football. I think he has good velocity. People have brought to my attention that he does at times put all of his body into the throw, but I do think he's effective at that. Pretty good accuracy, pretty good ball placement when he's at his best, but it's just consistency. You've seen a lot of missed throws, and then I think a good amount is the timing. Just being in sync with your receivers, and he's only had 15 starts, so that's going to be a red flag for some people. I think he has good pocket mobility. At times he bails the pocket though way too early. That's some Kenny Pickett-ish in him. I noticed. But I think at his best he's Bryce Young. Panthers Bryce Young, not Alabama Bryce Young. He was great. I still am high on Bryce anyway, and he had a great year this year. Good playoff performance, could have beat the Rams. So I think at Ty's best, I might like him better than Fernando, actually. So I'm not one of those guys that everyone's been clowning Dan Orlovsky because they say Ty because he said Ty's the best quarterback in here. If he was that consistently all year and against Oklahoma the first time, and they found a way to beat Florida State, and he at least looked competitive against Indiana, I might have had him number one. But Fernando is way more consistent and has more experience. And the talent is similar enough to where Fernando gets the edge, but I do like Ty a lot, probably more than most. I don't know if my Steelers I'd want him, just because I don't think he fits us per se. There's also lingering rumblings that he has a spine injury, which I thought was why he left the Indiana game. People were saying he was benched for Austin Mack. No. He might not. I think Keelan Russell's going to win that job this year, personally. I'm just not that high on Austin Mack. I never have been. So, yeah, I think it was that. That's the reason why, because he was getting fucked up in the Indiana game. But, again, with Drew, this Alabama team wasn't the stacked Alabama team you think of. So, they had absolutely no running game. The O-line was all right. It wasn't as elite as it has been. And, I love Jeremy Bernard, as you're going to see in the receiver rankings, but Ryan Coleman Williams now, he had a down year, a sophomore slump, so he didn't have the consistent loaded weapons that you'd think an Alabama team would have. So I think, he's not perfect, and some struggles were on him, but some also was with the parts that he had. So like Ty, first to second, probably I'm leaning towards second. I think that's great value. Late second, I guess I'd be comfortable with. Say if the Steelers drafted him, or you think obviously the Jets and Cardinals, maybe the Browns, maybe the Colts. I'm just thinking of potential teams that he could go for. Rams, I think, would be the perfect spot for him, obviously. Sean McVay backing up Stafford for, a year or two, getting that development, because, Stetson Bennett's not going to be the guy, and I think they released Garoppolo, so they might sign a veteran backup, but at some point they have to find a Stafford replacement, so I think that would be his perfect situation. I do think he has the tools to be a very solid starter, being the Brock Purdy, Bo Nix, Bryce Young tier of quarterbacks. Baker, the at best 12th quarterback, at worst 22nd quarterback. Um, but if not, I could see he might be a little undersized, doesn't have the elite arm you want, so I could see him failing at that aspect. But I like him. Number one, I got boring old Fernando Mendorxa out of Indiana. I just no one helped me out here. No one stepped up to the plate to be able to take this spot from this motherfucker. But first round pick, he's fine, he's good, he's cool, great IQ. I think. I know people have issues and concerns that Indiana offense was very simple, that he might not be able to process NFL defense and make progressions, which we have as cons, but it's more like a concern or areas that they can improve. My cons aren't like these people are dog shit at this thing and they can never improve. It's just what I think they need to work on in the NFL. So, and as an Ohio State fan, I guess I've heard that a lot from my quarterbacks, so I don't think that this is impossible for Fernando. I think he's a very smart enough guy, out of Cal to be able to do it. Pretty good accuracy, great best at the back shoulder throws, no one does it better than him in this draft, and I think he's one of the better college quarterbacks I've seen do that, so I will give him that. Good enough mobility, I think some people overhype it a lot because they're really trying to emphasize he's not a statue. He's not just like Matt Ryan and Jared Goff. He can move a little bit. He's just not the uber athletic guy. He runs like a giraffe, but he can. He's tougher than most would think and can get some first down yardage. Obviously that Miami run was iconic and very corny Disney-like produced, but I'm just a hater. It's okay. It was a great run, and picked up first downs against my Buckeyes, against Iowa. Just whenever he had to make the play this year, he did. So it's hard for me to really knock him and be a hater. Hearing Dan Orlovsky be that is funny, but I can't agree. He just stepped up in every moment he needed to. So it's what more can you ask for? Big cons though, he's not good under pressure, obviously who is, but, he really can't elude it out of the pocket. So that's the thing with, his athleticism. It doesn't translate. In a linear line scrambling, he can when he's not getting pressured, but, Caden Curry fucked him up, threw his big cock in his face and potentially kicked him out of the championship game, and, he just can't elude great pressure. Player comp, you've heard it before. This is the most perfect comp that I've ever heard and seen in my life. He is Jared Goff. It just is what it is. Maybe a slightly weaker arm. He has an NFL arm. It's not elite. It's like B+. Jared Goff, I don't think has the big arm. I think it's a big B+ arm and, more athletic than Jared Goff. But with who he's going to, I like Clint Kubiak a lot as a play caller. Obviously, he made Sam Darnold into a Super Bowl winning quarterback and above average quarterback. He kept him in that trajectory. So I think he'll be coached up well. Brian Greasy, I think, is the QB coach. He spent time with Shanahan and has some things with Brady. I do see little bits of Brady in him, which you guys know I'm the biggest Brady hater, but if we get another Brady-like bastard in the league, I'm going to hate it. So there's 2% Brady in him, 88% Golf, and the rest is Kirk Cousins, goofy whiteness, even though Mendoza's not white, but, just the dork in him. I think he'll be in that same tier that, at best, Ty Simpson would be in, I don't know if he can be a top 10 quarterback because I just think there's a ceiling to his talents, and the cons might be, too much to overcompensate with athleticism that he doesn't have, so. But I can't not have him number one. I would just be, too much of in my ways, banking on the traits of guys who didn't really prove it in college. Like Caleb Williams proved it. Drake May proved it. C.J. Stroud proved it. With the elite talents that I've liked in the past years of the NFL. Matthew Stafford, he proved it in college. I was big on him. Cam Newton, Matt Ryan. So, yeah, this has been my QB list. Fun as always. Don't worry, next year is going to be the great QB class, as they said last year and the year before and the year before that. So, it'll be fun to see where all these people go. And, out of 15 of these guys, 1.5 of them are going to have good careers. So, this was just all a big waste of time. But I appreciate you idiots watching me. And as always, this has been your boy King Caleb here, signing the fuck out.